In 1957, with science fiction and fantasy films still proving successful at the American box office, producer Sam Katzman was looking for a follow-up to his most recent genre successes, which included It Came From Beneath the Sea in 1955 and Earth vs. the Flying Saucers in 1956. Inspired by films like Rodan and then recent discoveries in particle physics, a story was conceived of a giant indestructible bird from outer space that wreaks havoc across the world. Originally, it was figured that stop-motion animator Ray Harryhausen would bring this creature to life, but due to budget constraints, he was never hired, which may have been for the best, because the end result, titled The Giant Claw, ended up being one of the most entertainingly pathetic efforts of its time. During a routine radar test flight near the North Pole, aeronautical engineer Mitch MacAfee spots a UFO moving so fast it disappears before he can identify it. While his colleagues are initially skeptical, soon several aircraft begin disappearing, with survivors reporting of a creature as big as a battleship being the cause. Eventually, the source of the attacks is revealed, a gigantic bird, impervious to all weaponry the military throws at it. As the bird continues causing chaos and pandemonium across the world, Mitch works alongside a small but determined group of scientists and generals to figure out a way through the bird's impenetrable antimatter field before it destroys the entire planet. The giant claw sets the tone right away with an opening shot zooming in on a model of Earth, along with an over-the-top narrator that was cheesy even for its time. And so begins one of the most notorious creature features to come out of the 50s, notorious for hitting so far below the standards of its time that it was laughable even when it originally came out. One look at the title creature and the utterly unconvincing way in which it is brought to life on screen, you already know exactly what kind of movie you're getting into. Cheap and silly to the point that you can't help but enjoy it. Yes, for all its many flaws, The Giant Claw has one thing going for it that other, more objectively good monster movies don't have: charm. There is an undeniable self-aware sincerity to the film that makes it a fun watch despite everything about it being pretty terrible. The film strictly follows the giant monster story structure, only without the budget by which to properly tell the story, which should be a disaster, and in a lot of ways it is, but it's all made bearable by delightfully cheesy acting and line delivery. Everybody on screen is taking it as seriously as they can, which makes the long-awaited appearance of the monster that much more hysterical. And hysterical this monster is. While creatures such as the Rhedosaurus from The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms are memorable for the sheer movie magic used to bring them to life on screen, the giant claw, referred to by some characters as La Cacagne, is unforgettable for how much of a failure it is, which again adds to the film's charm. The thing is truly ugly, and not in a good way, looking like a giant vulture with googly eyes, and the marionette used to bring it to life is stiff and lifeless, incapable of bringing any sort of character to the creature. The sequences where it chases planes and destroys cities are few and far between given the budget, and any enjoyment of them comes from relishing in how poorly executed they are. Oddly enough, the best thing about The Giant Claw is its two lead characters, Mitch MacAfee, played by Jeff Morrow, and mathematician Sally Caldwell, played by Mara Corday. Like its higher-budgeted brethren, the film has them start out playfully antagonistic with each other before developing into a romance, and while on the surface it's quite derivative, there's a corniness to their banter that's honestly pretty amusing. There's a long scene on a plane where they're bickering loudly with each other that culminates in the growing frustration of the other passengers, and there's some genuinely decent acting on display which, along with the chemistry between the two actors, makes it entertaining. It's nothing special, but in a movie as pedestrian as this, it stands out.
Mitch MacAfee, flying Sherlock Holmes.
Another thing The Giant Claw has going for it is its runtime. The film is barely over 70 minutes, which is short even by 50s giant monster movie standards, and it benefits immensely from it. Aside from the middle portion of the film, which lags quite a bit as it tries to tell its story without the budget to do so, it moves at a fast pace that keeps you engaged. That is, until it spirals out of control in an ending that couldn't be more underwhelming. The movie just sort of ends. There is no spectacle, and no fanfare is given to the creature or its demise. It's just another example of how small of a budget this film had, which makes you wonder why they even bothered.
Steady. Fire rockets!
Thank goodness they did though, because the giant claw deserves to be seen, not despite its faults, but because of them. It is one of those so bad it's good movies, a film made with good intentions without the time or talent to pull it off. The story is typical, and the special effects are horrendous, but that's what makes it fun. That being said, there is some genuinely good stuff here. The two main leads are likable and fun to watch, and the pacing, with the exception of its middle act, makes it so that you are never bored. All of this puts the giant claw into a unique position. It is a truly bad movie, one that deserves an audience that can enjoy it for all the things it does wrong. For more reviews and opinions on all things kaiju, subscribe and stay tuned to Up From the Depths.